Personal learning environment. As mentioned earlier, as a result of the concerns I had after reading The Shallows, I decided to download the available PDFs of the articles and reports on our required reading list and annotate them in Notability. After learning about digital mind maps in Unit 5, I later experimented with creating a mind map of all the units of the course, which linked to my Notability notes of all the readings through Google Docs. The mind map was useful as it gave me a quick overview of all the units and topics, and I could click on hyperlinks to see my notes. Without this system, I was finding it hard to keep track of what I was reading, and it was also difficult to find what I had written on different platforms such as Top Hat, Padlet and my journal. This was a much faster way of locating what I needed. I then revised this system in favour of tables within an app called Notion. Now, as I read sources, I can still highlight passages and write notes on the text, either on my iPad or on printed books, but I then add a separate summary of the key points and connections to other sources to tables for each unit. This system seems to work better. On the home page for this MA, I have also created links to Feedly, an RRS reader I use for journals, and websites related to digital technology and education, and also a Twitter account I created at the start of the course to follow my tutors and other scholars within the field. Upon reflection, I can see that I am using Notion as a personal learning environment. A personal learning environment can be viewed as both a technological and pedagogical approach to learning. It brings together a collection of tools or resources from different contexts that support learning and sharing. Ideally, it is created by the learner and as a result can be a highly individualized and empowering system which can integrate informal and formal learning. As the half-life of knowledge is shrinking and the need to retrain or upskill over a lifetime increases, PLEs provide a useful tool for lifelong learners. The PLE arose in response to learner management systems, which are seen as course-centric, as opposed to the learner-centric PLE. Malamed proposes 4 characteristics that PLEs contain and presents these as models for creating a PLE. I believe my PLE in Notion covers all these points. The terms used to describe the models vary slightly, but can broadly be described as control learning resources. For example, I download PDFs of journal articles, annotate them in Notability, and then collate links to the annotated documents in a table for each unit. On the homepage I created for this MA, there are also links to my Twitter account and RSS feed. Manage the activities participated in. I consider the key points in the reading and outline them in the table. Integrate learning. I consider the significance and implications of the reading and also note any questions. Learn with other people. The work we have done in Top Hat and Padlet can also be accessed via links in the table. We've been encouraged to read and engage with each other's work on these sites. Moving forward, there are things that I would like to improve in my PLE. The key findings and notes section of my tables, which is arguably the most important section, isn't very clear or easy to use. I've not found a way of formatting this section which would improve it. This illustrates a drawback of using a PLE. The program determines how it can be used. Learning how to use it takes time and effort, which can detract from actually learning, or in this case, considering the readings. Platforms are also regularly updated, so there is a need to relearn how to use them. I am considering replacing the keynotes and findings section of the table with a mind map. This would display my notes more clearly and link related notes together. However, I have concerns about where this would be stored and whether I will always be able to access it. My Notability files are stored in Google Drive, but it is unclear where the mind mapping program XMind stores files, and I'm reluctant to use it until I find this out. Making decisions such as these is an ongoing process in a PLE. Another downside is that platforms can also become obsolete. After spending considerable time and effort creating this system, I need to be sure that my content will always be available to me. EduCourse posits some additional drawbacks of PLEs. They're not suitable for everybody. Whilst they encourage autonomous learning, not all learners have the necessary self-motivation and need additional support. Learners must also have the information fluency or digital literacy to discern reliable sources and information. Finally, as an evolving tool, what constitutes a PLE is difficult to define. I find the personal learning environment a very useful tool. I think it offers some of the benefits of a domain of one's own. It functions as a garden to cultivate ideas and gives me control of the process. It works as a hub through which I can collate, organise and access all my resources for this MA. Notability is an enjoyable platform to use, and I find that I am more motivated to engage in a deeper reading of the text by adding key findings and notes to the tables. I intend to extend my PLE to include other elements of my informal learning, such as horticulture and Japanese. My PLE mostly consists of collecting information and reflecting on it. The elements Malamed refers to as connecting and publishing are lacking, and I intend to address this by posting the collated information for each source in the table on a blog. Notability gathers this information onto one page, and it can be viewed separately by clicking on the title of each source. This would enable other people to see it, and I would welcome comments and suggestions. Potentially, I could even embrace Watta's idea and create a website of the whole PLE. The lack of connecting and publishing activities reflects my initial reluctance to engage in these kinds of exercises. The biggest change in my understanding of learning on this MA has been a newfound appreciation for collaborative learning.